Okay, welcome to the fourth China-Belgium Science and Technology Exchange Symposium today. So I will be the moderator. I'm Özgür Karatekin from Royal Observatory of Belgium. We have the guests and participants of the symposium, Luc Tarve, Professor Luc Tarve from University of Ghent, François Cernels, Head of Quality and Environment Services of CARA, Rafik Himit from Royal Meteorological Institute, Belgium, myself, and Dr. Wan Li, CEO of China Link Invest. We'll start first with Professor Luc Tarve. You can see his short CV with many different aspects and what he's doing. I will just go very quickly. He's the Director of China Platform and Emeritus Professor of Concrete Structures at the Ghent University, member of Royal Flemish Academy of Belgium, Director of the Magna Laboratory for Concrete Research, President of the ENET Society of Engineers, and he's involved with many other parts also, as you can see it. So, Professor Luc, you're welcome to present the first talk. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the kind introduction. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to have the opportunity to give this presentation. I think, well, this is the fourth symposium. I think I've been speaking also at the previous ones already. So, but thanks to the organizers for inviting me again. So, I will speak about the cooperation, the international cooperation of our university, Ghent University, with the Chinese partner institutions. Well, first I will introduce what we call the regional platform. So there are different initiatives at our universities for international cooperation, but one of these aspects are the regional platforms. Platforms and regional, so we have this deal with particular regions, so we have an ASEAN Plus platform, we have an Africa platform, CSAM, that's Central and South America, EUREAST platform, that's Eastern Europe, and also, finally, I would say the China platform, which is one of the oldest, well, together with the Africa platform, we are the oldest platform. So each of, yes. So the mission of these platforms is to boost academic cooperation with partners in China for our platform particularly, to act as a center of expertise because yes, some colleagues want to cooperate with Chinese partner institutions, but they have no experience at all, and of course working together with China, there is the language barrier, of course, there is also difference in culture and so on and so on. So we give information how to do that, what's the best way. We also formulate advice on the policy for internationalization. Yeah, this should be here, I think. To Ghent University's impact and visibility also, and the international policy address, internationalization policy, I think it's a shift. Form a bridge to non-academic partners and assure partner management, and also impact and visibility of Ghent University. So this is very, very broad. Well, what happened before we had these platforms, so typically at Ghent University, and I think also at other Belgian universities, we follow, let's say, a bottom-up approach. This mostly starts with some professors who see each other, like at the symposium, like an event like this and so on, and they are interested in cooperation, they start up something. So, and then we look to formalize this by having a memorandum of understanding or a cooperation agreement and so on. So before this was all rather distributed, let's say, or well, I would not say chaotic, but the colleagues, they contact them themselves, partners abroad. We have 11 faculties at our university, and also it's not only with academic partners, but also We have contacts with cities, provinces, particular other organizations, and so on. So now with, if you could give me the next slide. Yeah. So what we have now with these, there's not, I think the battery is low. Oh yeah, okay. Here we are. So now, this is what it should be, of course. So we, with the platforms, and you see here the China platform, we act as a coordinator. We bring the colleagues in contact with partner institutions in China, with city authorities, provincial authorities. So this is an alignment of the chaotic situation we had before. We inform our colleagues and we make the necessary connections. When we look to the structure of our platform, so it was established in 2006. This means that last year, in fact, we existed 15 years, but this was only celebrated in the spring of this year due to the COVID situation. So we have a full-time coordinator, that's Mrs. Mengelschot. I am the director of the platform, and also very important, I will come back on that later, we have a representative office in Beijing. So we have a permanent representative there. Until last year was also together, he represented also the province of East Flanders. We have a steering committee. That steering committee consists of representatives of these 11 faculties we have, but we have also what we call a strategic partnership. And we have 4 strategic partners, that's the city of Ghent, the province of East Flanders, North Sea Port, that's the port, let's say, of Ghent. In the meantime, it expanded also to like Vlissingen and Terneuzen. And also important, the Flanders China Chamber of Commerce. The secretariat is also based in Ghent. So that's our main structure. Well, why the strategic partnership? Well, because, well, of course, every partner has its own policy with regard to China or other regions. But we also have some common interests. So it's good that we know about each other and can also take common initiatives or missions. Before I also participated in missions to China organized by the province of East Flanders. So this resulted in what? Yeah. So here you see a graph with the total number of incoming Chinese students and researchers. This is only the situation at the beginning of this year. Now we have more than 840 or something Chinese students. These are mostly PhD students, but also some master students and other exchange students, and most of them have a CSC scholarship. So you see that really there is a steady increase in number. As I said, now we are at 840 or something. So well, I cannot imagine that it will increase forever, of course, but I think recently I heard, I think that we have like in Belgium 3,000, a total of 3,000 Chinese students. I don't know, some people here in the room can confirm that, I think.
They have a big reservoir.
Yeah, yes, they can send more. So here some other figures. Well, it's not because of the platform was established in 2006 that we only have 16 years of cooperation. We have already, some professors went already 40 years ago for the first time to China. So the situation in China was much more different what it is now. So it was not so easy first to travel to China and secondly to travel in China. That representative office I mentioned, this is Zheng, was established in 2008, and for us it's very important because well, he is based in Beijing. Every week he has a coordination meeting with the Belgian ambassador and his team at the embassy. We have also direct contacts with some ministries, Chinese ministries, or also, for instance, the CSC, Chinese Scholarship Council. So we know we have all direct information, let's say. We don't have to wait before it's translated and so on and so on. And he also travels to our partner institutions when they organize an event or to events or to present our university. Well, you've seen this high number of Chinese, mostly PhD students, so this means this results also in a lot of publications, so common publications with authors from our university and from the Chinese partner university. So since 2006 we have more than 4,000 co-publications. I think the number is higher. And we have more than 60 active cooperation agreements and staff exchange, but apart from that, we also have some memoranda of understanding. And also important are the joint labs. I will tell you more about that. From an educational level, we also have some special agreements, 3+1+1 or 3+2. Why is that? Well, when we have exchange students from China, as you know, in Belgium and in Europe, we have a 3-year bachelor and a 2-year master. But almost in all other parts of the world, we have a 4-year bachelor, like in China. So to have the exchange, we have a system that with some particular universities, not in general, but we need to look to the programs. So they, Chinese students who has finished their 3rd bachelor year come to Ghent, they follow their 1st master year in Ghent. The Chinese university agrees that that year in Ghent serves as the last year, and they give them the bachelor diploma. If they then stay for 1 more year, they can get the master diploma. So for them, it's but this we can only do university by university, because we need to know the program to see whether it's equivalent and so on. But this is also some agreements we have. We also have special agreements for PhD, joint PhD programs, and also we have with one university an agreement with our technology transfer office. So we do not only work on education, research, but on also the 3rd part, let's say, the technology transfer. This is with Zhejiang University. Yeah. These 11 joint labs, I'm not going into the details. I will only show you somewhat in more detail 3 of them. So we have one on, that's the oldest one, global change and food security. You will see it's a very wide range of topics. And we deal with mycotoxin research. You also see the partners. This is like with Shanghai Jiaotong. Sino-Belgian Joint Lab for Geoinformation, I will tell you later on. That's with the Xinjiang Institute of Ecology and Geography, Chinese Academy of Science. Joint Lab for Industrial Construction, I'm involved in that. I will tell you also something later on it. Additive manufacturing, that's with Sichuan University. 3D printing. Sustainable crop pest control. World War I studies, that's with our colleagues from Sinology and Bart Dessin. Some people may probably know that in the First World War there were quite a lot of Chinese people involved in the region, the West Flanders region, so they were looking to have more information about that. Biomedical technology, that's related with our pharmaceutical science faculty. Joint Lab for Global Health, Smart Polymer Materials, and also liquid crystals and photonics devices. So you have seen, we have a wide range of universities that are involved in that. In fact, that's the final result of cooperation. And so we start, as I said, with a cooperation agreement, memorandum of understanding, we have exchange of researchers, students, and so on. And finally, we can establish such a joint lab really to intensify the collaboration. So, I don't know how much time I have, but
You have still 5 more minutes.
yeah. 5, yeah.
5.
So I mentioned the China Scholarship Council. Here we have special agreements with that, and we also, from our special research fund at our university, above, on top of the regular scholarship these students have, we can select 10 students who have an additional funding for their stay in Ghent. So there are different programs, I'm not going into the details. FWO and probably the FNRS also, but FWO has a program of cooperation, mostly mobility projects with Chinese universities, and so it goes via the NSFC. MOST also has some possibilities. Horizon Europe, we have a project running, and so on. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, as I said, we could celebrate 15 years in the beginning of this year. So we published 3 books on that. I will show you the cover. That co-funding. We also regularly organize lectures on different topics. We call this the China Lecture Cafe series. We also organize events with the other platforms. We also organize missions, like for instance in 2018 with our rector Rick van der Wallen, and in 2019, that was almost the last time we could visit China. That was with our vice rector, and also in the framework of the economic mission led by Princess Astrid. Here you see the covers of the books that we published after 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years. These books are available when you look to our website. You can download it. And this is called each time to the year when we celebrate it. It's not a culinary book. What we also find very important, that's our alumni network. Ghent University, we have a global alumni network, but particularly in China, we established the first chapters. And so, depending on the regions, so we have the Beijing chapter, Guangzhou, Shanghai, and Chengdu chapter. And we have very active groups there. So our alumni are the best ambassadors of Ghent University. We are also proud of it. And when we are there in China, we were in China, then we tried also to organize seminars and so on. And many of our former PhD students have a professor position at the university or are working with the company. And so it's very easy for us then to have contacts with them directly. Well, because traveling to China was not possible for the last 3 years, we organized seminars, online seminars, and we called this the China Platform Academic Forum. We did that first time in 2021. We then had, I think, like 8 seminars. But now, last week, we had the academic forum with 17 partner universities. So this was all going online, Sundays, 5 parallel, and so on and so on. So this is very successful. Of course, we hope we can do that in the future in person again. I will briefly show, so my cooperation is with Tongji University, where I have also professor position. I'm in structural concrete. We do large-scale testing, and at Tongji they have huge labs where they can do really real-scale testing of metro tunnel elements. Really, here is a special type. They call it the quasi-rectangular type of tunnel. This is unique. This was for the first time applied in Ningbo. Normally you have 2 circular pipes parallel, but you can save space by combining this. Of course, people who have some structural background, the ideal shape of such a tunnel is a circular, but of course when you have it in this shape you have more bending moments, so the design is more complicated. So tests were done at Tongji University, and then we had a PhD student in Ghent who made the modeling and the design and so on. Also got in 2020 the Shanghai International Science and Technology Cooperation Award. and about the cooperation with China. Had the opportunity to tell about that in an interview with Science and Technology Daily. And yes, this is a conference. This is with Xinjiang. This is geography and geomatics. This is with Xinjiang Institute of Ecology and Geography, Chinese Academy of Science. So these are the agreements. This is the former Belgian ambassador. And so this the teams. I will show you the teams. So modeling and understanding heritage issues. Those who have been in Xinjiang province, there is a lot of heritage. And so this is together with the archaeology department. And the other topics are climate change, land use, hydrology, and so on. So there is quite a big variety of land. You have the deserts, but you also have the mountain regions in the Xinjiang province. Okay, this is Wei Hong Zheng. She was also involved in your organization. So that's on from the medicine faculty. I'm not going into all the details here. You see some topics they are working on. This is World Health Organization Center. They also have, again, with the well-known Madeleine Temmerman as director of that, different cooperation projects if they want to appear. You see it's all or like post-abortion, family planning, young labor, migrant maternal care, and so on in rural areas. These are the topics that are dealt with in that field. I want to go faster, but it doesn't follow. Yes. These are the people involved. This is Wei Hong Zheng. We also have international networks there with 38 institutions worldwide, 3 Chinese, 1 at Tsinghua Peking University. This should be the last slide, I think. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions you would like to ask from the audience?
Just so on the last slide, you were mentioning China, Belgium, South Africa.
Yeah, but this is a global cooperation project with with South Africa, 3 Chinese institutions and 3 Belgian institutions. So it's not just limited to China-Belgium. Also here you see there are 38 institutions total among 3. So these are broader projects, let's say.
Yes.
Yeah, I was curious how zero COVID has impacted your ability to cooperate with Chinese counterparts, and what kind of your projection is for the coming few years, and how that is going to develop with current policies.
Well, COVID has impacted our cooperation quite significantly, of course, because, as I said, we were not able to travel to China. So one of the initiatives we've taken is that academic forum I just mentioned that took place last week. So, of course, for us it's almost impossible, I would say, to travel to China, but the Chinese PhD students, they continue to come these last 3 years to Belgium. So that's the increase we still notice. And so traveling from, let's say, China to Europe and Belgium apparently is no problem. But of course, I must say, before, we had like every 2 weeks in Ghent a delegation from a Chinese university or another institution, and so to continue the cooperation or discussing renewal of an agreement. We don't have this in person anymore, but okay, we had organized online renewals of agreements. Like 2 weeks ago, we had the renewal of the agreement, double PhD agreement with Zhejiang University, also the joint lab I mentioned, where I'm involved in. We also renewed the agreement, but all online, of course. But yeah, this is good to continue the existing cooperation, let's say. Not to booster it really, but okay, let's say continue. But to set up new cooperation, yeah, this is almost impossible because we cannot just online start with another university we have no experience with. We should be able to visit them or we receive a delegation from that university. So that's, and also, you know, yes, to discuss, to have in-depth discussions, yeah, it's difficult to do it online. And especially with the Chinese colleagues, I think it's, yeah, you need really to have in-person.
Recording in progress.
And also, I miss also the dinners afterwards in China in the evening, where we could also discuss a lot of things, of course. So we are really looking forward. I said this already at other occasions also. We are really looking forward to be able, and I think all the speakers will tell you the same story here. We are really looking forward to travel to China again. But we made the best out of it. That's, yeah.
Maybe one more comment.
We saw that there is a steady increase of Chinese students in Ghent. That's a really good news. But on the other side, are they, I mean, is there still the same interest of Flemish or Belgian students to go to be interested in Chinese matters, or you see that because of COVID since 3 years it's going down?
Well, I must say, so we have these high numbers of incoming Chinese students. I didn't show you the numbers of our students going to China because the last 3 years was zero. So before we had the numbers like 40 to 50 per year. These were first sinology students who spent 1 semester of a full year at the Chinese university. Also some students from economy, and also several students, like 10 students from structural engineering and architectural engineering, because I said that's my discipline. I was teaching courses to these students who have made some promotion for it. So we had for several years, like almost 10 students studying at Tongji University for 1 semester or a full year. And they were very happy with it. When they returned, they were really enthusiastic, and they told then their others too, oh, you should go there, and so on. So this was a continuation. Now, when even we could be allowed to go to China, I don't think we can start this up very quickly because we don't have the students who were there to make promotion for us, and so this will be more difficult. And of course we do this with some particular universities because they need to have a sufficient number of English courses taught in English, and also should be at the right level, a high level. For instance, Tongji in civil engineering in the Chinese ranking is the #1 in civil engineering in China. So this is very good level. Also for architectural engineering, Tongji and also Southeast University and Tsinghua are at a very high level. So we really, this also holds for other agreements. So when we make agreements, we look to the rankings because we are selective, let's say. And but this we had a very good experience with that, and also hope that we can start it up in the near future, but this will not be for this academic year. And also I must mention our master students also could apply for a scholarship from CSC. So there is also a program allowing our students, and mostly we were successful, all the applications were approved. So they also had the scholarship to study in China. So we had a very good, well, it was a very nice and good experience. And also like our students then, well, I've shown you the tunnel project, you also know about the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau link, which is still, I think, the longest link of this kind in the world. I also had a PhD thesis on the joints in the tunnel segments, but also our students then could visit these projects or also see the tests that were going on. And so for them, it was also a unique experience that we could not show them.
And one last question, there was one last question.
So, Professor, thank you very much for your comprehensive introduction of your platform, and congratulations to the achievements you have obtained in person and also to the platform. I actually have two small questions. First is, you have now 11 research contract agreements. What's typical duration of such an agreement? Do you also, or how do you evaluate and renew it? And secondly, you now have so many Chinese students. Do you do the top up to keep the income or the salary same as the local students? Because in Leuven we do it.
Yes, let me first answer the first question. So typically these agreements for joint labs are for 5 years. And then it's evaluated whether there is activity, because we don't like really agreements. That's also for the general cooperation agreements and MOUs. Well, we don't want just to have it signed and then it's sleeping, so to say. We want to have active agreements. So when the time for renewal is there, we evaluate and then we renew it again for, let's say, 5 years. So that's an answer to your first question. Then, yes, now indeed we are faced with the, let's say, the inequality in wages also at Ghent University. That's not only for Chinese PhD students, that's for all PhD students coming from everywhere, let's say, and not particularly for China. So I mentioned to you already, we had for 10 students, we had this additional salary they got, but this was only for 10 students, so we have so many, about 10 students each year. But now, yes, there is indeed, it's compulsory to have a minimum wage independent of the scholarship someone has. So indeed this is, some colleagues have now been confronted with that. I know it's under discussion, but well, not every supervisor is, I think, fully aware of that. But this can be, of course, a problem in the future to attract for colleagues, to attract well, Chinese PhD students with these CSC scholarships, because they need to pay, and I don't know what the difference is, it's like, I think like at least 400, or I think 400 euro per month, so times 12, times 4. So they need to provide that amount, of course, and have it available. Yeah. But okay, I don't think this will, we will see a drastic decrease. Perhaps it will slow down a little bit, but I think most of our colleagues are really interested in having this cooperation, and they see it as a win-win situation, despite the fact that you have to make some additional investment in it. Or I don't know what your experience is at Leuven.
Yeah, I'm from the Faculty of Engineering Science, and we are, say, obliged to keep the wage for the local students, same wage, same pay.
Yeah, but then is what next then? Do many colleagues say, yes, we don't want to have any more students with CSC scholarships, or they pay the difference?
No, in Leuven is a free market, so we do not have this platform, so it's if
but
you
we
would
don't
attract
pay.
one,
We don't pay. The platform does not pay this difference, and it's the supervisor who has to pay his PhD students, of course. And the top-up financement is from bijzonder onderzoeksfonds in Dutch, and so the special research who provides that. And there, China is in fact in a unique situation already for many years, but this because this additional fee is only for Chinese PhD students, not for PhD students from Africa or whatever. So yeah, but we could manage that so many years ago, and it's not really under discussion, but that's something special we do for the Chinese PhD students with the CSC scholarship.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, it was a pleasure.
next speaker is François Sarnez, Head of International Agronomy of CARA, lecturer at Condorcet and ULB. And yeah, the next slide. So I think it's very interesting, the CV there. He's an agronomist, agricultural engineer, graduated from Brussels University and Antwerp Tropical Veterinary Institute. He worked on different aspects of the food and potato sector, and in particular he has been in partner from agriculture sector of 14 Chinese provinces progressively to work in collaborations for the protection and controlling of the potato and fungal disease. And this collaboration led to also work with SMEs and different partners, also collaborations with several different control points, and this led is 2015. He got the I'm not sure I will pronounce Chongyun People Friendship Awards, and he was elected by most as one of the 40 most influential foreign experts in 40 years opening. And he got also in 2022 the Golden Horse Award of Inner Mongolia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I come from a very local institute, so it's not a huge university like Ghent University. It's what we call a technical university, so we graduate master and bachelor students, but our master students are not oriented toward fundamental research, for example. They are oriented toward high level of industrial applications, but especially for us in agriculture. Center for Applied Research in Agriculture of Hainaut province. So Hainaut province is the biggest French-speaking agricultural province in Belgium. How did we start collaborating with China? Because the province in Belgium normally has no real mission to develop international relationship. Normally we are concentrating on our province, for example, our farmers for us. Well, in fact, it is because of Mr. Rons and his AWEX organization. So that's the very old logo, I think. That's very outdated. That's the old one. But in 1999, AWEX promoted first participation of small and medium enterprises to the first international agricultural exhibition in Beijing. I always had, when I was a kid, I was reading Tintin in the Lotus Bleu. So it's a very famous comics in Belgium where a young man goes to China and he has a very good friend. So actually I became something like Tintin, because I can say that probably my very best friend is a Chinese guy which I met during this adventure of potato in China. So that was how the first contact started. I will not go longer for that. We will see some picture after. So I told you it's a small center, and actually the total staff of the center is maybe 50 or 70%. Most of them are working on Hainaut province agriculture, but we are a group of about 5. There are some others who participate, but those 5 are those who are getting involved regularly. So it's a very small team. So after we started in 1999, we developed some local collaboration, and we started not in Shanghai or in Hong Kong, not in Xinjiang or in Tibet, but we started in the middle of the two, that's Chongqing, really in the middle of China, in the Yangtze River, on the Yangtze River, and in a very mountainous area where actually there are potatoes everywhere. That's very surprising. I will explain you later. So we started with local collaboration. So with Chongqing, it's a place where at that time almost no foreigner was going. There is no interest, although it's a very, very big town and it's a very dynamic and active place. But it was in the west a little bit more difficult to reach and this kind of thing. Then we also had connection with Inner Mongolia, another place where nobody is going because it's a huge flat plains with nothing to do except looking at minerals, huge amounts of minerals in the ground, and a lot of cattle everywhere. But there are also hundreds or thousands of hectares of potatoes. So we went there also. So that were local collaborations. And by those local collaborations in very different environments, we could start understanding the difference, the huge difference that we have between European scientists and also farmers, and Chinese scientists, technicians, and farmers. Little by little, we started developing activities, and we found very big interest in benefiting the scale of China. In China, everything is big. In Belgium, everything is very small. But in Belgium, we take time, and we have experience, and we have developed a kind of culture. I use quality, but it does not mean that China is not using quality. But I didn't find any better word to summarize my idea. So in China, we need to develop very big actions. In Belgium, we are used to develop very good actions. And actually, we should do together good and big actions. Then I will explain you why we could benefit from this experience. We started making win-win exchanges. We provided some scientific approach of agriculture, and they provided, the Chinese partners provided us with a computer and also some organizational point of view, which we never thought about because we didn't need that. And then they were used to need that, and they were used to solve those problems. After the win-win exchanges started developing very much, we were cut completely. We were weaned of contact. We were going there maybe 3-4 times a year, spending a lot of time together. And then with COVID from March 2020, we could not meet anymore. Of course, we had some video conference and this kind of thing. And they still continue developing very, very much what we have developed in the first time, in the fourth point. Anyway, the contacts were very good, and we are still developing now new challenges, so new topics actually we try to develop together. For the moment, it's only by writing and by discussing on WeChat and on having video conference. But ideas are coming up, and I'm quite sure there will be some very practical project coming up very soon. And then also we started having new geographic scope because because of our work in China, we have developed a small international agriculture department, and we wanted to keep that department alive, not only on video. We wanted to be it working also in the real. And so by chance, actually, we had contact because of the Chinese reference, because now we can show that in China, we have very good achievements. So people from Kazakhstan, people from several African countries came to us, and we developed those activities. Next one, please. Yes. So I already introduced you the basic word of my speech is potato. So potato, actually, many Westerners and even some Chinese believe potato is a Western food, but actually potato is an Asian food. 3/4 of the potatoes are produced in China and India and eaten there, not for export. It's eaten in China and India. And the rest is produced in Russia and a very little bit in Europe and the USA. Well, actually in USA a little bit more. So you see, we can eat French fries maybe like rice, actually. They eat French fries like rice. So now this is a healthy field of potato. And potato is a crop that is developing very much, and which can produce a lot. Unfortunately, everywhere there is potato, where the environmental conditions are good for potato, there is potato late blight. So potato late blight is a microscopic fungus, which is one of the fastest developing pathogens in plants. In 3 weeks, if you have one spot of late blight, I will not go into detail because we have no time, but if you have one spot like that on one leaf, in about 5 to 10 days, one spot will generate another 100 spots. In another 5 to 10 days, it will generate 100 multiplied by 100, that's 10,000 spots. And if the weather conditions are still favorable, it will generate, after another cycle, 10 million spots. After 10 million spots, you have that, and you have no more potatoes. And that's the result. So, fortunately, that pathogen has a cycle which was understood quite clearly since the 1950s, and a model was developed by French people in the 1960s. And one of our staff member, who's now retired, he applied this model, and this model can be summarized as modelizing a growth curve of the infection. So the pathogen is developing inside the leaf of the potato according to the temperature and the humidity, relative humidity. If you have those data, you can forecast pretty accurately the moment where the next cycle will begin. So if you know when the next cycle will begin, you can spray a fungicide at the right moment to prevent the new spores to develop. And you don't have to do that anytime. You have to do that at the right moment, because a little bit before it may be raining and your fungicide is washed away. A little bit too late, the pathogen is already in the leaf, and you can spray fungicide. It's useless. The fungicide is not entering efficiently enough in the leaf. So by using, in the 1980s, we were using this kind of mechanical device, and we have to take out the paper and read what is the average temperature, what is the average relative humidity, and so on. But we started having computerized and automatized weather station. In Wallonne region, for example, we have about between 30 and 40 weather stations. Of course, in China, 30 weather station is nothing. That's for one district. So now in China, they have over 1,200. And they are set up in about 14 different provinces. Actually, almost everywhere there are potatoes. Yes. So we started, I told you, I went to Beijing to attend the International Agricultural Exhibition. There I met this guy who unfortunately died a few years ago. This guy was the only one speaking English in the group. They came for training in Belgium in July '99. But this gentleman, he was able to read English and to understand a little bit. But because this one stimulated him very much, he said, the next group you have to take with you. And so he became the interpreter in the next group. Actually, when we visited Wuxi, so in a very poor, how to say, it's a poverty level county in Chongqing, so in the mountain of Chongqing, very poor area. So he was doing the translator. That was a very difficult time for him. But now so he's working like an international expert. So these are the places where we have been working. So mostly in Chongqing, that's potato. So in red are the potatoes area, the darkest, the more potato. So Chongqing and Hubei, a little bit Guizhou, Yunnan also, and of course Inner Mongolia with several parts. And as I told you, some partners, especially one small companies, high-tech company, but it's a very small one. I think there are 7 or 8 persons now, and at that time there were maybe 2 or 3. So they developed the system to make our warning system, which was basically nearly mechanical and manual. In the beginning, we were sending the warning by post. You know, we put a paper in a cover and we send it to the farmer, because we have to send only to about 400 farmers. It's not a problem. But if you have to send to 5 million farmers, it's a big problem. So they use a completely computerized system, and it worked very well in China. And then we decided to use it in Belgium also. That was a very good win-win exchange. We provided them the scientific background and the warning system model, and they computerized the system to make it automatic so that the information can be treated very fast and can be sent to a huge number of farmers and technicians. Just some picture to give you an idea. That's only potato, you know, for hundreds of hectares. That's in Inner Mongolia, but also in provinces like, or regions like Ningxia, Hubei, Guizhou, Gansu. So the kind of activity we do, we go to the market, we see where the potatoes are coming from. Actually, you can find fresh potatoes everywhere in China at any time, but they come from different provinces. In the winter, they will come from Yunnan. In the summer, they will come from Inner Mongolia and so on. Then we did also some national training course. And we welcome groups of Chinese agronomists to get familiar with the way that we are working at field level. One of the most impressive characteristic of Chinese science, to my opinion, is that at the laboratory, at the university level, you have incredible achievements. I mean, they are very, very strong. But as soon, for agriculture at least, when you go to the field, then there are much more difficulties. And it is well understandable. Of course, any people like me, I'm a scientist, I like to have some comfort. So where can I have a comfortable life? More probably not too far from a big city. So in China, which is such a huge country, with such an important countryside, it's difficult to find very comfortable place in the countryside. So it's difficult to find very qualified and very dedicated staff to work in the countryside. But anyway, there are a lot of also. That's again in that very poor county of Wuxi near Chongqing, so a very remote place. At the beginning, we needed 2 days from Chongqing, 1 day by boat on the Yangtze River, and then 1 day by jeep on very small mountain roads to reach the county. But now it takes only 6 hours by highway or by high-speed train and then by highway. Huge change in China. But making formal agreement between local authorities was also quite an experience, as well for Chinese authorities as for Belgian authorities. You know? So we had I was lucky to have the president of NO Province Council to visit Wuxi. So it's not a very common attitude for this kind of person. Actually, he started his career as in developing countries, in Mali and this kind of country. So he really wants to involve also, although it's not the mission of NO province to do this kind of thing. So I told you that the warning system was adapted to China by developing a website providing the information very fast to everybody. And the impact today, about 1,200 weather stations, the area covered is evaluated between 4 and 8 millions of mu. That's for us in Belgium, that's between 260 and 520,000 hectares. Just an information, Belgium, Wallonne region and Flanders have a little bit less than 100,000 hectares. So that's nearly 3-4 times all the potatoes in Belgium. And the evaluation by Chinese Ministry of Agriculture, of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, is that the damages avoided by our system reaches 300 to 1,000 kilograms per moose. So that's quite a huge amount. If you say that, if you see that potato is valued 1 to 1.8 RMB per kilogram at the farm level, it means that probably more than 1 to 3-4 million, I'm not sure how many farmers have got between 2 and 14 billion RMB in their pocket, which is quite important for them. So the system was completely adapted when implemented in China. For example, in Belgium, on very large flat area, we use big tractors. Impossible to do that in China. Instead of leaving any small farmer spray not very accurately the fungicides on his field, this example is in Wuxi again, but it was done like that in many other places. They started teams of farmers who were paid for several days. So when there is a need to protect the crop, they go all together and they spray. They have very cheap fungicides. They have good small engines. They have a little bit more protection than have the normal farmers. And the protection is much more efficient because it is made at the right moment and for the whole area to be protected in the whole village. We had some funny surprises also. When it was very important and when we see that the pressure is very high, we told our colleagues, it's important, you have to inform the farmers. So they use the police car. to inform the farmers in the beginning, but that was very efficient. That's the potato rescue service. But we never thought about doing that, but they did, and it was working very efficiently. And because it was efficient, the farmers adopted the system. Potato police. Potato police. So for the moment, we are using, as most or nearly all the farmers in Europe and in China, we are using chemical fungicides. So those chemical fungicides, they are very useful because they kill the pathogens of the plant, but they are toxic. And the most important of those chemical fungicides is called mancozeb. It was widely used. It was number 2 pesticide used in Europe. The number 1 is glyphosate, the famous Roundup. So the number 2 is mancozeb. So this mancozeb was banned from EU last year. It means we lost our best and cheap tool, which was used almost by all farmers having potatoes, also for apples and vegetables and a lot of things. But for potato, it was a very important thing. But it is toxic. It generates a goiter, you know. So it attacks thyroid, and you develop a goiter, which is a pathology which is quite harmful, and many other possible effects. Including endocrine and effects and so on. So probably the next step will be to replace part of those chemical fungicides by biofungicides, which can be extracted from bacteria and fungi. And therefore, China is very strong because China has excellent universities and laboratory work, as I said, and they have a tradition of plants, a lot of plants and fungi, big fungi that can be used, and also they have the capacity of gathering big teams, for example, for collecting a lot of samples in the countryside, which in Europe we cannot do because generally, except in some European projects, the team in Hainaut province is not perfectly collaborating with the team in West Flanders province, and we are more in competition than in collaboration. I exaggerated a little bit because we have good collaboration, but still between Belgium and France or between Belgium and Netherlands, we are in competition. Well, it's Chinese also sometimes. But keep in mind that biofungicide will be important, and we try to work on that. So, for example, 2 strains, there are many strains, but for example, Streptomyces hygroscopicus was identified, some strain of this, have been identified in Chongqing University, and other strains of another bacteria, Bacillus subtilis, which is quite common. Streptomyces hygroscopicus is not very common, but Bacillus subtilis is already used by many other companies, but they have found some strains which are quite active against late blight. So we want to develop, we want actually to integrate these biofungicides in our warning system. But it requires a lot of field work. So COVID, as I told you, COVID stopped many activities, but we kept e-training. We don't use Zoom, we use Voom. Voom is the Chinese, the WeChat Zoom. And that was not later than yesterday. So you see what the topic I was developing is the new regulation of the EU on IPM. That's why I insisted so much on biofungicides, because the new EU regulation, regulation means it's different from an EU directive. An EU directive is something that EU advise the countries to set up. But a regulation is something EU imposes the member state to set up. So it means when this regulation will be decided, countries will have 2 years or something like that to implement it. What is the major content? We have to reduce all pesticides by 50% in 2030. That's just incredible. Huh? It will be a huge effort, and probably there will be a reduction in yields, in total yield and total production in Europe if this is applied. But the public health and the environment will benefit a lot, because of course the farmers, they say we need pesticides to produce big amounts of potatoes, But the doctors say that because of you use too much pesticide in potatoes, we have a lot of sick people in the hospital, and this cost also. So we have to make a balance of it. And of course, now, because we know it better, we want to reduce pesticides. And alternatives are, amongst other, biofungicides. We had introduced 3 proposals with the MOST and WBI program last year. Unfortunately, I just learned 4 days ago or 5 days ago that the 2 first, so the one on biofungicide and another one on climate change, have been refused on the Chinese side. It's a pity. We have to try again. We still hope that we can develop another one in Heilongjiang. Now, Luc talked to you about the BELSPO program, asking research institutions to develop activities on climate change, biodiversity, and human health. I mean, these are 3 very complex topics, you know. You need very experimented, and you need qualified, and you need open-minded people to treat only one topic. And BELSPO and the Chinese Ministry of Science and Technology and the South African Research Center or Research Administration, they asked to treat the 3 together, and not only between people that you speak the same language with, but you have to treat it with the Chinese, South African, and Belgian people. I can tell you, I never saw such a complicated matter. But also, I never saw such an interesting matter, because it makes all of us extremely attentive, or extremely careful about to try to understand what the other wants to express, and very curious to see, oh, that's another point of view. I never thought about it. That's a good idea. So we have developed that project together about potato, of course. So I will not give you the whole protocol, but the total protocol is developed commonly by Chinese, Belgium, and South Africa. The soil sampling and DNA extraction were also made by the 3 countries. But South Africa had not much means to do the PCR and the Milik sequencing in their laboratory, so only China and Belgium are doing it. But they have good experience in taxonomic analysis of the results of the previous. So they bring us something that we don't have, and we bring them a lot of sample to analyze that they don't have. Now, if we come back to the late blight problem, I told you that so we had we had a collaboration with a small company in Beijing to develop our automatized system. But potatoes are not only grown in China and India, but they are also grown in some places in Africa, especially in Rwanda and Guinea, in some mountainous area looking very much like the central part of China, subtropical climate in the mountains. And we were recently approached by an EU organization that is supporting horticultural sector in Guinea, and by a research institute, university actually, in Rwanda, because they heard about what we did in China. And so they say, well, can we do that in our country too? And we said yes. And even the tool is ready, because the guy in China, he's ready. It's not a very big cost for him just to share the platform. We just have to copy or to enlarge, and they can have access, and we can benefit of this platform. Actually, we duplicate the platform, but it's a way to share tool on a very cheap way, and they can implement directly a very efficient tool. Now, the implementation in the field is a little bit more difficult, but at least we start to develop that tool this year. And you see the perspectives are quite large, because in Bangladesh and India, they are also starting that. In Bangladesh, they have a lot of research on biofungicides too. In India, they have a lot of potato and also some biofungicides in the pipe. Congo and Rwanda, they are the 2 neighboring areas where they had connections, and they asked us if possible to develop the same system in Congo. And Mali is for something else. And Kazakhstan, we have also proposed them to do something, but we mostly work on seed quality. Actually, in Inner Mongolia, we developed a lot of support to seed potato producers. So we benefit of this experience to develop it in Kazakhstan too. I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this very interesting talk and very nice talk. We are running a bit late, but if there is a question, I wouldn't stop you because it was really nice. Yes, please.
There was one question. I've seen that you have made a joint laboratory in China. And could you share your successful experience about the business model?
Actually, we have no real joint laboratory. It's an informal agreement. In the beginning, we arrived with the warning system as a kind of a set of practice, that a calculation, and so we did it on a very simple way, by computer, but on a very simple way. And it was quite time-consuming and not very efficient. When we had to develop that, because when we need to implement it in Belgium, the number of repetition is small. We need about 30 or 40 items or repeats of the same calculation. So with a very simple computer system, it's easy to do. But once we were trying to develop that in China, our system was not working, was not able to do it. And so this small high-tech company said, I'm interested, because they were trying, actually they were developing irrigation system. So they had already some computerized application, and just by talking and exchanging between scientists, they say, oh, maybe I can develop an automatized system for your model. We said, okay, we can do, and we trusted each other. He said, I will do that for you, give me the scientific information, and I will give you the computerized tool. That's not very common. And that's because we are not a business company, actually. We are a public service. Of course, we cannot work free of charge. We have to pay the salary and this kind of thing, but we are not developing business to make profit to the benefit of, to the benefit of the shareholders of the company. Yeah. So we have to get money to implement activities, but once we have the money to do that, we can work. And because we have the two tools, the scientific approach and the computerized approach, the whole set was very useful to many people. For example, plant protection stations in China, where there are potatoes, they all had a lot of trouble. They have to send agronomists to explain to the farmer how to spray the fungicide, and they don't know exactly, they fail a lot, the system is not efficient. So they were very happy, actually, to pay us some training sessions to explain their technicians how to do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have questions, but I want to share some good news, because Professor Sanier's contribution to the China's tomato disease control system. So he won the Chinese government friendship award this year. And next week we will hold an award ceremony in our embassy to honor for him.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Many thanks for what you have done to China and to Chinese farmers. But for my understanding, for now, like the quantity of tomato in China is good now, but like potato, sorry.
But tomato has the same disease. Tomato is the same family.
Yeah, potato. But how about like the quality? Like for as far as I know, like in some Belgium supermarket, you can see some potatoes, they are expensive, some they are cheap, relatively cheaper. Maybe like for the expensive tomatoes, they are good in like nutrients, the taste. So for my understanding, do you have some plans?
You have similar in China. It's not the same varieties, but you have the same range of varieties are available.
So my question is, like, do you have some like, are there some further collaboration chances to import like some Belgian potato specials to China.
Varieties, yes.
To improve
There are some
the
changes.
quality and the economic values of the potatoes.
There are some changes, but it's probably not a priority.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there are some
Also,
excellent
yeah, it depends on the
varieties in
environment
China.
or something.
If I may answer to your question, Wallonne company is already exporting processed potato to China.
Uh-huh.
So there is a market over there.
Yeah, yeah.
But of course, I mean,
frozen potatoes.
the frozen potato. But of course, the price
Yeah, yeah.
between local potato
Yeah,
and
yeah.
imported potato
Yeah, yeah.
is not at all the same. I mean, and the customers are not the same.
Yeah.
One question. Congratulations for your big achievement.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for helping China. I'm just wondering, because here in Belgium, potatoes are famous. We call it powder potato, I don't know, from holders. But here the climate is quite different from China.
Yes, actually, Belgium is maybe one of the regions, Belgium, the north of France, the Netherlands, the west of Germany, some parts of England, Ireland. So those northwestern Europe countries or regions have an ideal climate for potato. But in China also, there are some places which are very suitable for potato. And besides that, potato can grow in many difficult conditions. It can grow in the mountains, it can go in the cold, it can go in the dry. So, of course, the yield will not be the same. So in Belgium, we reach commonly 45, 50, 55, even 60 tons per hectare, sometimes, of good quality potato. So that's a lot. But in places like in Africa, like in Guinea or Rwanda, for example, in different climate, they reach much lower yield, maybe 20, 25 when they have good condition. In Kazakhstan, 15 tons sometimes. In some places in China, 10 tons, 12 tons, even if late blight is coming, only 1 or 2 tons. It's common. But even though you have those low yield, other crops give even less. Wheat cannot grow, rice cannot grow, corn cannot grow, or give less than that. So potato is a very powerful plant, actually. Sorry, it's a very powerful crop. It can produce a lot, and that's why you find those potato in a lot of poor mountainous area, mountainous, acidic, dry area. You find potato. You find no rice, no corn, no wheat, but they have potato. And that's why potato is such a priority for China also, because the potential to improve the yield of potato is very high compared to the average yield of wheat, corn, wheat, corn, rice, for which China already has a very good level. While for potato, the average level is not that good. So the potential for improvement in potato is high. And the same is true in many other countries. I talk about Bangladesh, India. There also the yield is low.
Yeah. Maybe the last one, very quick question.
Yes, I would like to know if your work has improved the food quality in the rural areas in China. This is the first question. The second is that in the past, your universities has developed researches in Yangambi University in Congo. Are you referring to it again? As
yes, so Yangambi was a famous Belgian center in Congo. I've not been there. I've only been in Goma, in the very northeast part of Congo. We have a small project there to try to develop potato, and I think the potential is high, but the conditions are difficult. It's not so much the agricultural conditions than the political and security conditions.
Yeah.
Now, what was the first part
The
of
first
your
question is your food, the food quality
yes, the food
in the rural areas
in China, definitely. I showed you the figure in millions of kilograms of potato produced. Yes, definitely. And potato in those very poor areas like Wuxi in the Chongqing area or many of those very poor districts, potato is the basic food. And the first thing the people do when they have potato, they eat. And when they have enough, they sell a little bit. So that was very important. And yes, it contributed a lot to the food security.
Okay. Thank you very much. I mean, I myself have many questions, but I think we have to stop here, and more questions we can ask after the sessions. Thank you very much. So the next speaker is Rafik Hamdi. He's a civil engineer. He got his degree from Toulouse, France, Météo France, and he did a master and PhD in Belgium. His specialty includes the urban meteorology, urban climate under global warming, and interactions between surface and atmospheres. And we are working almost at the same plateau, very close entities. Yes.
Thank you very much for this kind introduction, and thank you very much for coming. So I am very honored to be invited here. So this is my second time. Last time it was via Zoom. I'm very happy to be here physically, and I hope it will continue. So yeah, before I talk about it, because I said this time or this conference will be on sustainability, so I said I will talk about cities, about urban, because we heard this morning how it is very important to the energy and all the sustainable aspects in the near future. So, but before I would like just to talk about my story with China and how I am involved. So I must say that I am a pure, let's say, bottom-up product. We heard this morning that the bottom-up approach is the way how Chinese are working, but I can put myself in this because I just one afternoon I was working at the RMI, very near where Ojo is working in April, and I got one email from one student. She told me, please help me. I am interested to do some work on urban application. I said, okay, yeah, sure. So I invite her, and we start a collaboration with this way. Then I thought that, then she told me that she is working at Agence with Professor Philip. We saw the presentation of Professor Luther, and I said, okay, that's a good way of working. We have now the legislation, let's say, and I start working with these students like this. And now I think that I have already like 5 PhD students that work with me. And what I will show here, the figure that I show here, this was work together with my PhD students. So it's, I must say that it's really a win-win situation with PhD students. We really, they learn from us, and also we learn, and they are really very good PhD students from China. And I am also very happy to say that next year I am appointed as professor, invited professor at TX, so it's in Xinjiang Institute, because so I am really very happy to be there as well. So, but today I will talk about cities, about climate change, because it's a very important topic. So, I don't know if you know, for sure you know about the IPCC, this intergovernmental panel of climate change. And one of the latest products that they did is this summary for urban policymaker and how we should take lesson and how we should see and how we should adapt and make our cities resilient to climate change. So most of you know that by 2030, almost 60% of the world's population is projected to be living in cities, and 90% of this is added to cities in developing countries, especially in Southeast Asia and also in Africa. So it's very important to see how climate change impacts cities. Just one. Yes, here. And this is the kind you see. At each time I will put my collaboration with my Chinese colleagues. So this is a work that we did with Beijing. So it's a remote sensing center in Beijing with Professor Guang Wenhui. And the idea was to map how the urbanization, you see here, the urban expansion percentage. It's so the red area here means how urban impervious area expanded. And this is for the last 20 years, since from 2000 to 2020. And yes, here, because I put this presentation, it was for Africa, but you can also see that urban land in Africa has doubled in area. But you can see it's also for Chinese, for China, it has really doubled. And that's why it was very interesting for me, because I am working on urban climate, because China is really the ideal world if you would like to see the impact of urbanization and the interaction with climate change. So it was really a very beneficial for my work. Yes, and this is also a figure that I did with my PhD students from China. And here we wanted to know, so we are talking about cities. most of you know that cities, we have this urban heat island. So the fact that cities are usually, in general, warmer than the surrounding, and it can go sometimes to 8, even here in Brussels, it can go to 8 degrees when it is clear sky like today. It will be really, the difference can go to 8 degrees, but on a mean average, it's about 2 degrees. So you need to add this effect on top of the climate change, of the warming effect. And we wanted to know what is creating this local urban warming on cities. And we did this study with my Chinese students. And here I think we select like more than 100 cities over all the world. And we selected what are the factors that make our cities warmer. You can see the first one is the geometry. Here is the city geometry, is how we are building cities. Are we using narrow street or wider street, or how is the density of the building, a lot of building or vegetation? This is the first factor, which creates the warming, the local warming of cities. The second one is the anthropogenic heat. So it's the heat which is released by human activities or by industrial activities to the atmosphere. So this is number 2. You see that we are at 1 degree. And we have also number 3 is the material that we just talked this morning, heard about this morning, about the material that we need to use to make our cities sustainable. This is come in number 3. See here, that is almost 1 degree warming. And of course, if you would like to make your city colder, you need to use some water, or the most efficient is vegetation. So if, for cities, if we have cities which have, if we can have a smart combination between vegetation and how we are building cities, we can offset this urban heat island. So this is the what we did in this figure here. Sorry, this takes some time. Yes, and here this map show you. So we have looked in the past, because as I told you, I think that the urbanization that happened in China in the recent decade is one of the most important, I must say, in humanity maybe, but it has impact a lot. So this is, you see here, the impact of urbanization on the local warming. So this is not the global warming. So the map here is the background warming, so which is, let's say, which is due to greenhouse gas, the global warming. But what is here in this circle is the warming that is just added by the urbanization. Because when you make your cities bigger and bigger, this will make your urban heat island, I talked to you about this just before, more intense. And an average over China here, it's about 0.49. So around 0.5 degree is just due to the fact that city is more and more. And here we did the same exercise here because we are in Brussels. You see that we are also, so this is, was at study for the ICU. So we have a station there. It's a long-term station in Brussels. And we found that the almost 0.6 degree was just due to the increase of the city of Brussels, because the station that was measuring the temperature was more and more within the urban area, and it started to measure the urban heat island instead of the global warming. So we did this map for all the cities here. What's next slide? Yes, and here with the IPCC, we wanted to know how the urbanization affected the extreme event. And you see here that what we found, for example, if you look to this here, where we are, Western Europe here, and for China, it's more this region here. You can recognize Africa here. So you can see that we are, there is an increase of these hot extremes in the past, and this observed increase, we are highly confident that is due to human contribution. You see that we have three dots here for both regions, so it means that it's highly dependent on the human activities. And the urbanization has exacerbated this exchange, this hot extreme, especially during the night time, because of this urban heat island, which is more important during the night than during the day. The cities is also another work that we did with Chinese colleagues, is that we wanted to know what is the impact of the cities on the water cycle. So the city is not impacting only the temperature, but also the precipitation, and the fact that you have a city here, which it will alter a bit the precipitation cycle. I will not enter into details. So, and this is also work that we did, how we should create this information for local stakeholders, so the urban policymaker and local stakeholder. And what we found is that we need observation. So we saw in the presentation before the impact of having stations. So we need to have stations in cities, and it's not only a problem in global south. Now we still need to have network even for global north cities. So we need to have long-term networks that we could monitor this urban temperature, urban precipitation, etc. So we still need to do this. We need to have some model that take into account all the urban effects in cities. And of course, here we need to work with different source of data. We need the observation, the model simulation, also some expert judgment, and we need to have some distillation of all this information in order to have an important, let's say, stakeholder information that is useful for them. So then for the second, there is another working group in the IPCC which is dealing with the impact and adaptation. And here we wanted to know what are the adaptation gaps and barriers when we are talking about cities. You can see that the most one is this misinformation and the politicization of climate change science. This will create like a barrier for the adaptation and to starting adaptation on cities. We have also this fragmentation of the responsibilities in cities, because it's a very complicated area where you have different players that are, and this fragmented responsibility make that the planning and when we are talking about mitigation, adaptation, it's more difficult, especially for cities. So yes, this is what we need to do in cities. So we found that 3 broad mitigation strategies have been found to be effective. So first is reducing or changing energy and material use toward more sustainable production and consumption. We heard this morning about some very nice companies that are dealing with this both in China and in Europe. Electrification in combination with switching to low emission energy source, and enhancing carbon uptake and storage in the urban environment throughout, for example, bio-based building energy, permeable surface, green roofs, and more vegetation in the city. Next slide. Take some time. Yes, and this is also work which is done by my current PhD, so we finish next year, Fan Chi Kui. And we want to know, okay, it's good to put vegetation, but is it really, it will be the performance of having vegetation, is it the same everywhere? We found that this cooling effect of the vegetation is dependent on the background climate. So and here we found some more important effect in the cold, in temperate, and then in the arid climate. So it means that it's not necessary to that vegetation will always improve, but we need to take into account the background climate of the region where we are working. And I think that the next one will be the last one. Yes. And this is the last picture, is that the cities are really key to climate action, and the climate change battle will be won or lost in cities. And yeah, for example, an effective adaptation and mitigation option exist and are being implemented. This should be continued, this effort, and we need to accelerate the action, target particular vulnerable place and people also, and invest in hybrid solution with multiple co-benefits, like improving the heat, but also the air quality, for example. Well, that's it, and thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, please.
We told that the biggest part of city population increase would be in poor countries. Yeah. Is it difficult for poor people in poor countries to have new housing, which are including those kind of things you're advocating?
Yes, exactly. So that's a very good question, because the problem is that more people will be in Africa, in Southeast Asia. They need to have house. They need to build, and we just found, I just showed in the map, that making building cities or making a new building, it will be difficult, because it will add to this warming. So we need to be very careful how we need to build. So the way we are thinking is that we need to go for compact cities, so using as much as possible the space which is already existing within the city, and not that will decrease, for example, the transport, that will decrease, for example, the carbon emission, etc. So we need to work in this concept for compact cities where everything could be done really locally. So even like water system, water, etc. All should be, I think, but it's really a challenge. I agree with you that, yeah, because also the majority of people will be added in this region.
Yes, please.
So urban policymakers like to have big cities. So they generally have policy to increase the size of the city.
Yes.
So what is the part of the geometry aspect included or concerned by the size of the city? I mean, do you include the size of the city as an element of geometry? I guess the geometry of the city depends on the height of the buildings and
yes,
as you explained, but isn't it also 1 million inhabitants has probably more concentrated effect?
So also in this map is that why we have this increase here, sorry, why we have this increase of the warming, because of the city which began to increase. Even here I said for Brussels it increased and impact the temperature, for example. So really these sprawl cities, we need to be careful for sprawl cities. And this is also, I think, not from the physical science of urban and climate we need to go this way, but it's also for the energy, as I said, for the carbon emission. So yeah, we need to go to this compact city in the future. And
my question is about the size. So compact and small or compact and big?
Yes, it's more, yeah, so it's more compact. Yeah. I mean, if we have cities now, we'll not be able to, of course. But the aim is to limit this power of the cities as much as possible, especially now with the taking into account all the sustainable energy and all the issues.
I guess the possibilities of planners in China and in Africa will be very different.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have now starting also collaboration with China for the region of Xinjiang for about the urban planning, etc. It's really very important, and how we build cities and to take it, because the problem is that the scale of building is the same like the scale of climate change. Also 100 years. When you build something, it's for at least 100 years. So it's the same scale, same temporal scale. So, thank you.
The last question again. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, please. How would you advise the political people in the undeveloped country to build their city? Because there's strong pressure, the pressure of population, the pressure of economy, the pressure of the natural disaster. What type of plan do you give them to not to destroy actual cities, because it's impossible, but
yes,
how to build them?
Yes. So this is what I put in here in this picture, in this slide. Maybe I can go back. We need to have these three. Maybe that one needs to be back. Yes, I think it's just the one before this one. Yes, this one. So we need first to have observation. So this is what we are trying to do for the stakeholder in Africa. When we have a collaboration now also with Africa, is that we need to build this network constantly. So we need to have observation first. Before to have tackle the problem, we need to observe the temperature, the precipitation in cities to see how the climate could affect your city. The second thing is that we need to have this capacity building of local researchers, that local researchers can be able to run such model for cities to be able to see the interaction. So we are aiming of having like local researcher from universities, from local universities in Africa, in African universities, which will start a collaboration with the local stakeholders, the urban stakeholders. So we need to build this dialogue. It needs to be built. This is the second. The third is that, yes, and this is what I put here, is that, and this dialogue should start from the beginning. So we should not just at the end say, okay, look, we did this. Is it okay? So from the beginning, we should establish this dialogue between the university and the local stakeholder. And of course, we need to have what I put here is that this uncertainty. So of course, you can do, okay, in the future it will be like this, so it's better to do in this way or not, but we need to quantify the error. And in order to quantify this error or this uncertainty, we need to take into account different sources of information, including also the experts, which can be local experts, how they can see all these aspects should be taken into account in order to have a good advice for the local authorities.
Okay, thank you very much again. I will be giving the next talk. I'm Dr. Kartekin. I'm from Royal Observatory of Belgium. I'm a planetary scientist. I've been working at the AAOP for the last 20 years on different planetary missions. And planetary missions are usually the collaborations between different nations. So it's quite complex to put a mission together and quite difficult to do it, especially like a small country like Belgium alone. So we work a lot with ESA, but there's been also some collaboration with ESA in China in the past. We were also involved with different missions. My colleagues, especially Ping, who couldn't be here today, he was involved with the instrument that we did on bolometer there. And we also had in the past and regularly many collaborations, scientific collaborations, very fruitful with China, with different universities, including the Shanghai Observatory. We are still in contact and we have still some students. So we are very happy about these collaborations and would like to continue on those. So the topic I will be talking today is the planetary defense. So basically, what is planetary defense is basically we are looking to the near-Earth objects. Those are mainly the asteroids, as you see. And then if there's one day there's a target, like it will hit to the Earth or the danger, how we will react. So that's basically what we do in terms of the research. And this is, of course, this needs to be coordinated in the United Nations level. So there are different countries and they're involved. Also, there are new and different planetary agencies like NASA and ESA. They put newly, I think, this is planetary defense sections. And recently, maybe you heard there's been a successful planetary defense experiment called DART from the NASA. So basically, this is the asteroid system binary, and DART spacecraft hit on that secondary asteroid just to change, to see if we can really deviate one day if it is needed the trajectory. Next slide, please. Yeah, I mean, this is basically, we have tons of material coming every day to the Earth, and those are really very small, and they disappear in the atmosphere. They burn because they're like less than centimeter level. But I mean, we know that there's been big impacts on the Earth. Earth is changing, as you know, so we don't have this very well preserved craters, many, as you see on the right hand side. But we have this one. They're close, geologically very close, couple of million years. And this one is the most famous one with the Chicxulub crater there, which caused actually one of the big mass extinctions in the Earth. And that was the end of the dinosaur there, of course. So the idea is to avoid this kind of catastrophic events. I can say that we know that these big impacts, they're not happening, but they're like small impacts. It's like this one. This is about only 15 meters or 20 meters. These are dangerous ones because we don't know. And this created a big explosion in the air. You can see on the right hand side. It's too late, maybe the video shows. It caused a lot of damage, and it causes exponentially this danger, this explosion. So this is 10. If you go 30, 40, it will wipe out a small city. You go 120, you go regional and kilometer level, then you can have almost global catastrophe. So to avoid that, as I said, there is a planetary defense system. This is an example from European Space Agency, but NASA and the other agencies, they have the same. So we like to detect, and it's not easy to detect, especially those coming from the sun. Most of our telescopes are not able to see them. So we can only see one part of the sky. They're trying to put NASA and ESA some infrared telescopes to see them. Then we need to calculate the orbits of those objects and how do they change, if there's a danger or not. And then if there's a danger, then how we deflect them. So the experiment that I just mentioned is about the deflection technique. It's called DART. So this was basically a spacecraft which went and hit to the target to change its directions. The second part, rendezvous missions, will be from ESA, it's HERA. That will be launched in 2 years or 3 years, and will arrive there in 2027. So again, DART is similar, like it's like 11 million kilometers away. We need to really hit the target. It's a body which makes only 180 meters. I mean, small one. Big one is about 800. So it's really small if you scale in the space. And so we need to hit that one. And then it changes like a little bit like petanque balls. We hit it. But the only thing that our ball is only 500 kilo, and this planet, I mean, this asteroid, it's millions of tons. So it's a very tiny change. Yeah, that's basically what happened. That was sent, and it took almost was sent November 2021, almost a year later, after 11 million kilometers. It hit the target on the 26th of September. And this is, I think, a video. Can you play it? Is it possible? We will not have too much time on that, so I would like to show it, but I think I will. Yeah, can we go a little bit faster? Or like, it will be difficult, probably. Okay, I'll pass this one because we will not have time. Yeah, I know it's nice, but I will have other videos. So. Yeah. So that's actually, this is the image that it shows. Maybe, yeah, this one, yeah, I can show it. This is the accelerated images. That's really from the spacecraft camera. So they saw it, the bodies actually only, they were able to see this two body 10 minutes before they hit. And then that's the primary, and this is the secondary. So this is they were taking the images and the spacecraft autonomously navigating. So because from the Earth it will be very difficult and too late to do this. So it crashes. So before it crashes, it takes the camera in the middle and then it goes to the surface. And that's the couple of last slides on the surface. And yes, boom. And then it couldn't come the last one. So it was quite successful. We were happy. So this is the last image. So it's like 5-6 meters. These are the scales that we have. So it was new as a scientist. So we were not sure what to expect. Like we know the moon surface, like dust, very tiny dust. And if you go to little asteroids, yeah, that's very yeah, it wasn't sure. Nobody know. And only recently, Bennu or Osiris-Rex, they found that this is more rocky, etc. And these are important to understand also about the formation of the solar system, the bodies, how do they collide. So this is what we want to know and what is they are made of, so that when we have a one day a danger, we can find a way to avoid that. So this is also taken from the Earth-based telescopes. The impact, actually, the impact. What you see is the dust. A lot of dust came out, much more than what we expected. And you could see that the Earth-based telescope. This is a little CubeSat that was there. It shows also the dust coming there. Those images. That was from 50,000. Yeah, 50,000 kilometers. Yes. And then basically, yep, it's not working. Yeah, basically what we want to do is mostly with the Earth-based telescopes. What happened is that the second there was it. And then what's happening is that from the Earth-based telescope, we can look at the signal, basically the amplitude of the luminosity, and we can look at these changes there. And after the impact, actually, we start to see there's a period change. We were expecting a couple of minutes. We saw a huge change, much more than that, 50 times more. So that means that basically what we assumed about the asteroid was very wrong, which is yeah, it was not too bad. We learned. So we are involved with the modeling now. So this is part of the work that we do aerobic. We do the impact modeling. We do the orbital dynamics. We look at the light curves. We are involved with the observations, of course. We have also some students from China doing the PhD. For example, Fusen about to write her thesis. She's going to defend, but also one of the papers on that with some other colleagues from China Observatory and Louvain-la-Neuve. So observatory, we are a research institute, so we cannot give the degree, but we accept the researchers, especially the graduate ones, postdocs, PhD students, master students, stagiaires from all over the world. And we try to give state-of-the-art, like, science. So she did a very nice work about, this is made with different asteroid models, as we didn't know, and then simulate this impact there. So this is, and then we work on the second part and the observatory also. As I say, we'll send, it was a DART now, we are trying to, prepare this mission, ERA, and this is gonna be sent in 2024 with a CubeSat there for gravity. AAOP, we are involved with that one. We are building an instrument, also the mission, so that's the one of the CubeSats. This is the Hera spacecraft. This is, of course, the artist impression. And there are many Belgian companies there. My colleagues put the Belgian brain because Spacewell is, and the Kinetic, they are making the really software there, of the spacecraft. We have the gravimeter, there's imagers, and there's a lot of contributions from Belgium industry there. And these are couple of the instruments, the CubeSats and the thermal camera there. I'll go a bit fast. And this is also the thermal camera. It's with JAXA, with Japanese. We are working on that. This is gravimeter, it's Spanish. And there was also an asteroid mission with China. We wanted to work together. So it's we are hoping to be involved with that. This is the CubeSat that we are working. And one of the things of the telescope we'll do is first, when it's deployed, study the gravity, and the most interesting part is will be landing. We'll try to land on the surface of the asteroid. That's a small video. Yes, it works. So that's also a small video. It will be very difficult because the gravity is 10 to the 500, almost 1,000,000 times less than what we have on the Earth. So everything is very slow. So this landing, it's like a couple of 100 meters takes hours. It's a different word. Everything's slow. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's the CubeSat. It's, of course, it will be covered. It's not like that on the surface, we hope. And then this is the instrument that we are developing. We are also working with Chinese universities on a similar concept for the electronics, for the parts, for not only this one, but some similar instruments for future missions. So that's actually tiny, 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, and only 300 grams. Yeah, then we need to, of course, simulate the gravity. It's very difficult to simulate that gravity field on the Earth. We have some specific setups and try to simulate those with different blades. Then I'll go fast. There's a lot of, it's a space mission. That means your instrument has to take all the loads from the spacecraft, like vibrations, radiation, cosmic radiation, temperature changes on the surface. It will go to minus 60, 70 degrees to plus 40 degrees. Sometimes it goes up to 100. So we need to do a lot of tests, and so that the spacecraft can carry those instruments. So that's what we have been working. And then, we'll try to finish those, put in the Hera with the spacecraft, launch it, and then we arrive to Hera and to see what actually DART impact that I was showing the images, because DART impact, we know that it hit the DART spacecraft, this asteroid, but we don't know, apart this observation from the Earth, what happened there. So that's what we'll investigate in the next phase. And then there are other missions like Apophis. This is another asteroid that will come to the Earth 2029. It passed actually at the altitude of our GNSS satellites, 30,000 kilometers, very close. It's a small one. It's about couple of 300 meter diameter. It could be very dangerous if it impacts, but there's almost no danger of impact, although it passes very closely. But there are international mission studies to study also this asteroid, especially to see if an asteroid like that passes that close to the Earth by tidal interactions, what will happen to its rotation? Will it break up some parts? Since our knowledge is, I just told you, very few, it will be very interesting for us to know. And then finally, there's also coordination by the United Nations. It's called SMPAE group that Belgium is participating and China is participating there. So that's one global way to prepare for such planetary transactions. Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you for this really interesting and fascinating presentation. I'm quite curious how much such a large operation costs. Do you have an idea?
I mean, operations depends on who is doing the operations, of course, but yeah, it can cost a lot. I don't have the exact numbers. I mean, the art actually still this was relatively simple because what costs is usually when we go on Mars and stay there for a year or 2 years. So somebody has to make sure that spacecraft running always, properly. In this case, not really causing any effect. So get the data, calculate the orbit, and send the messages. So usually space agencies, they do that. I mean, for small missions, it was 1/5, 100. So it could be 30 million. Yeah. I'm just putting the number from top of my head. It's usually for ESA fast mission class. Similar concept. It's about 20-30 million cost for space agency to run the telescopes and to run the spacecraft. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Really, I like science, but I'm afraid, are you not polluting the space?
Yeah, we are crushing a spacecraft there. But I mean, to be on the fair side, this is something important. There's United Nations and the Space Agency, they put that very clearly, which kind of object you can go and what you can do there. For example, if there is a kind of possibility to have life or water, presence of water temperatures, we have this classification of the bodies from 1 to 5. Well, we cannot send anything there. We cannot go, we cannot do. And there are other bodies. These asteroids, they are like kind of less, let's say, severe parts because we don't expect any in the water. But nevertheless, everything that will go, it will go with, go to the, not to put the bacteria and etc. with the ovens, 100 Celsius instruments, etc. will be baked, etc. But yes, there will be some part of the, spacecraft will stay there. Like on the lunar missions, we have still like a lot of deposit from the astronauts, etc. They stay on the moon. Yes. Okay, then thank you. We can go with the next topic. Yes. So the next speaker is Mr. Li Wan. He's the founder and the CEO of China-Belgium, Belgium. He has done his PhD at the Applied Science at the Free University of Brussels. He is the founder and the CEO of the China-Invest, coordinator of Nanjing Demonstrative City, a child project of the EU H2020 Project Solution Plus from 2020 to 2023.
Thank you. I would like to first thank you and thanks ACPB for the opportunity to present and sharing experience for the Nanjing demo in the framework of the EU Horizontal 2020 program Solution Plus. I would also take the advantage that I can speak Chinese, so I try that to finish the slide. A lot of in 10 minutes in the Chinese and the English. Of course. Yeah. So in the sense of that, so I may not follow the slides, but the most important points for this demonstration. 这个项目呢是这个欧盟的框架2020年的那个计划，一个科研项目。然后这个项目的主要的目的呢，就是欧盟为了实现巴黎协定，呢，一个呢旗舰项目，然后它是在全世界各地呢找这个10个城市。然后呢，有很多成熟的技术，然后我们怎么样把这些成熟的这个车辆的技术应用在这个城市里面， 然后呢做一个验证。所以呢，中国呢唯一的一个城市呢就是南京这个城市加入这个欧盟的这个项目，这个呢得到了中国科技部和南京江苏省政府及南京市的大力的支持。So this is an flagship project for the urban mobility and sustainable electrification in large urban areas. It's an EU horizontal 2020 project, and it's to find 10 cities worldwide to demonstrate the mature or the existing technologies, the green technologies in the city to be introduced in the different cities in the worldwide, and then to do the assessment of those technologies. And Nanjing is the unique city that was demonstrated in this project. OK， 这上面写了很多，然后我就简单讲啊。它这个标准的话 ，ISO 这个标准是今年9月份刚刚通过，所以是一个非常新的标准。但是呢，准备这个标准的话，已经花了20年的时间。那这个标准的含义是什么呢？就是如果我们在进行那个就是可持续那个交通的话呢，然后一般都是燃油车取代那个电动车，就是我们一般现在买电动车。但是如果我们的驾驶习惯进行改变的话，那么呢也可以减少就是二氧化碳的这个排放，那么也可以减少这个碳足迹。那么呢这个的话呢也应该是就是说跟电动车一样，就是说有一套这个评价标准。那么它的意思呢，主要是这个标准主要是讲这个的。然后呢，这个德国电信公司我介绍一下，德国电信公司呢有2块，一个是 B2C 的业务，比如说他们这个就是比如说给一般客户，然后这个 GSM 号码对不对？然后这些都是那个 B2C 的业务。还有一块呢，就是做云端服务的，就是数据这个中心的服务，那么它叫 T-System。所以呢，德国呢根据这个标准 ，T-System 公司大公司啊。他做出了第一套就是 LCMM 的一套实现。Okay, so basically the ISO was approved just last month. It's very new. It says that if we change the manner of driving, it can also decrease the carbon dioxide footprint, and that makes sense. It's make a big sense. And the T-System is a German company. It's a big company. It's one of the German telecom. Has the first implementation of LCMM. And this demonstration, the implementation is demonstrated in Nanjing City as well. That's what we are doing. 这里面有很多数学公式，但是这些数学公式呢，就是怎么样他们这个计算，把这个人的这个行为，这个驾驶行为的改变，然后怎么样转换成这个二氧化碳排放的减少。那么呢，有很多的就是说数学公式和这个测试数据，然后呢做出这个模型出来。那么这个呢我就不展开讲了，但是呢，所有的这些都是最后到实现的话，你只需要一个 smartphone， 这是我们的手机。那么呢，还要有一个就是说后面的数学公式呢，都是一个经典的这个经典力学的一些数学公式啊。那么这些我就不展开讲。So all of these, the implementation, the mathematics model behind is a little bit complicated and also has a lot of experimental. It's a years, it's not a years experimental. So I will skip off this. Okay, this is the high level. 这个呢是那个我们在整个系统的一个实现，整个系统实现分两个部分。那么第一部分呢是云端部分，然后呢第二部分呢就是说我驾驶员部分，驾驶员部分呢有一个手机，然后上面呢有一个程序，然后呢这个手机的话不断的收集你这个驾驶的一些那个行为数据，你驾驶的路线的一个数据，然后呢传到这个云端，你每秒1秒钟采用一次，然后传到云端，云端然后做出计算，然后做出判断，然后给你反馈你的驾驶行为是不是 economical， 然后给你一个评价。Okay, so the high-level architecture of this one, there are two parts. One part is in the cloud side, and one part is on the driver's side. You have installed the app, and the app have the sampling of the data, and then to send and synchronize with the cloud, and the cloud make the assessment of driving behavior and give you the feedback of your, let's say, on the app in a real-time manner. So in this way, you can monitor your driving behavior. 这个呢是我们整个项目落地在在中国落地的一个进度表。因为呢，就是说它主要呢也是分为3个部分。第一个部分呢，就是说我这边这个所有的这个东西这个实现的话呢，在德国，在欧洲开发，但是搬到中国去之后呢，它要有一个本地化的过程。这个有个本地化的过程，那么首先中国会有一个团队呢，然后呢把这个欧洲的程序呢核心本地化。然后第二部分呢，就是说我们要在中国的话寻找就是团队，就是它有这个营运的车辆，各种各样的车辆，比如说巴士啊，比如说这个小汽车，然后呢他们在这个城区规划路线上跑，然后呢数据，然后这个评估，然后我们这套系统呢做下来之后，然后呢它会有一个数据过程，然后呢收集完之后，然后呢有一套联合国有一套那个评估的标准，就这套系统。它的从社会效益、经济效益跟那个技术这个实验性在三方面，然后进行评估，主要是3个部分。Okay, so this is the demonstration of the phase. So many 3 phases. The first phase is the application software localization. Yeah? The second is data sampling. The third one is we have a unified assessment system provided by the UN, and to assessment the demonstration in 1960. Okay, 这边这个评价系统呢，他们很简单啊，就是很复杂，就是说三个部分，他们整个东西呢3个部分我大致讲一下，就是它评价呢主要是刚才我讲的，就是说分为3个方面。第一个方面呢，就是说我技术实现性，在中国能不能技术实现？然后第二个方面呢，就是说我的经济效益怎么样？这个东西如果我推广到其他城市，我推广到其他国家，然后有没有经济效益？能不能赚钱？它能不能就是说自己能够滚起来？然后第3个呢，就是社会效益。这个东西虽然很好，但是它很贵，或者是它也可以，它这个整个社会上大家反应是什么样的？主要是呢，因为这3部分呢，然后我们有一位这个高级经济学家，我们团队就是有一位高级经济学家，然后他们是就严格就是这个按照这个流程，然后呢写出统一的各种报告，是吧？So basically, let's say the assessment of this demonstration will have 3 levels. It's very complex. It's unified. Totally 20 projects. So this is one of them. But they're using the same criteria for the assessment. We have an expert of a senior economist in the team, and to translate those criteria to the assessments for this demonstration, and then finally to submit the report. The report will be submitted next year. Okay, that's a very interesting part. 然后在这个运行当中呢，然后我们就是说有一些那个 challenge， 整个东西呢，整个这个运行的话是很成功的啊，很成功的。然后呢，但是呢有一些 challenge， 比如说主要是4个方面。第一个就是说如果我们在定位这方面，然后在德国的话，我们定位是用的 Google Map， 可是 Google 的所有的 Google Map 在中国 is blocked。所有的这个东西是不存在的，所以要根据中国的地图系统，然后开发新的东西。第二个呢，就是说，比如说用的话呢，大家会有担心，比如说你这个东西呢，因为它会跟踪你这个驾驶员的这个位置，所以呢，驾驶员的话呢，不太愿意装这个东西，我为什么要跟踪我的位置？然后第3个，比如说 assessment， 就是这个验证这个评价这方面呢，比如说我在这个示范这个阶段呢，本身是这种示范项目的话是很难产生收入的，因为你要说服大家去额外做一些事情，所以呢这个东西是很难去那个这个。然后呢，如果说我们在后续这个阶段要推广的话，那么呢像这个系统的话呢，那么最主要的问题呢，就是要等到国家承认你通过驾驶习惯的改变，能够减少这个碳足迹，然后有这个奖惩措施出来。比如说你今天买了电动车，那么你会免税，便宜点买。那么你也可以那个有很多鼓励政策，对不对？那这些鼓励政策能不能够给我这个驾驶习惯的改变？那么这个我们要等待。那么最主要的是4个问题。So basically, that's very interesting part. So the challenges in 19 demo we have learned. The first is Google Map is developed over here, but it's blocked in China. So we need to change the map. Okay. The second is that for the deployment, the people is worried about this application will track my trajectory. Yeah? They don't like it. The assessment is that is for the current, let's say, demonstration, that the revenue is zero. The revenue is zero. So we just give the application that to the people, that the volunteers that to do that. And for the scale up, we are waiting for the policy, for the government level, that to have the relevant incentives in place. 这是南京方面，他们有一个就是 SCAP 的这么一个计划。然后我们还在想的话呢，就是说怎么样去推广这个项目。主要讲2点。第一点呢，就是说，如果在这个项目就是明年啊推广这个阶段的话，我们希望就是能够中国有另外一个城市对这个项目感兴趣。然后呢，我们有现成的这个技术，现成的这个团队，然后呢，去帮助中国的一个城市去实现这个项目的落地。然后呢，那个第二个呢，就是说我们也愿意，就是说，第二个呢，就是说，比如说一些新的一些那个商业模式，比如说我这个程序，这种算法。能不能够跟中国的地图厂商结合起来？那么呢，现在目前这边欧洲呢已经在跟 Google 在谈这个合作，其中他们有一个算法呢，就是那个算法，就是能不能跟中国的这个地图厂商呢能够结合？那么第3个呢，就是说，如果政府呢会有一些这个奖惩措施的一些那个政策研究，然后我们也愿意去这个合作。So basically, that we think that for the scale up, we have some ideas. The first is we are searching a lot of China cities who is interested to implement this activity. One thing. The second, we have new ideas that maybe a China map provider is interested in this algorithm and which can embodied inside their system, just like the Europeans did right now on the Google Map. Is collaborating with the Google Map. And thirdly, is that for the policy level, that we are also very, let's say, pleased that to collaborate and support the China local government or China government to have the incentive policy study. Okay, that's all. So this is my email address. If you have any questions, write to me. If you have some new ideas, write to me as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation. So we are a bit late on time. We will need to leave the room very soon, but if there's a question or any comment there, you can take it. Yes, please.
I've seen one line in your table that was effect on security. But this is security of the data, I think, right?
It is the security. Yes, there's one of the European. The China also have the data protection law.
But what about the physical security of the drivers? Could this kind of system be used to make it automatic that the drivers follow the speed limitation, for example?
So this demonstration is mainly on the LCMF. So this could be, let's say, this your suggestion, your idea could be the later on improvements. You see, but many this demonstration is focused on the algorithm and the whole system. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can thank all the speakers, and it was a very nice session. So thanks for the participations, and you also thanks for being here and listening and asking these questions. Thank you, everybody.